पता तो चलता है अभी.
Okay. Good evening, one and all. Thank you so much for taking our time to join this early evening session with Dr. Neeta Pradhan. I want to start with certain questions, and I'm sure it'll force you to ponder over something very, very important. When we study, we study science. What is the real purpose? Is it only because we want to learn certain steps to get a certain result in a lab? Or are we trying to build something? Are we trying to, create more curiosity in the minds of our students? When you're learning maths, are you actually wanting to just get the proper answer and get scores from the teacher? Is that what we are making the students learn? Or are we actually aiming to learn something where the children become more resilient? Even if there's a problem that they don't understand, they attempt to solve it. At the same time, when you learn history, I remember I used to hate that subject. And like, what am I doing? Why am I learning the dates? This purpose was never shared. At the end of the day, I think all the students and all of us have grown up doing these subjects with absolutely no clarity on the purpose. Today, you and I have come together to discuss this very important aspect, which is purposeful learning for employability or entrepreneurship. If you understand the backbone of learning and how it plays a big role in our entire life, you would know how bad it goes when you're only driving chapters and grades for yourself instead of actually looking at the purpose of life, so to say, and where you want to head in terms of being who you are. All of us are unique, and not everything is meant for everyone. I see like a herd mentality building up during this pandemic. Everyone wanted to learn everything online. Every webinar we were trying to log in. Does that really make sense? Is it taking us anywhere at all? So there is a fear of missing out for no rhyme and reason. My funda is joy of missing out. Let it go. Because I know exactly what is it that I need to know for what I'm trying to achieve. And the purpose is where your energies and your entire time should go. So that brings me to our very warm welcome to Dr. Neeta Pradhan Das, who's joined us today. Thank you for showing the grace to accept our invite, Dr. Neeta. And this session is largely going to be talking about this very theme that I spoke to you about. I thank all the viewers who joined us in this evening time, missing out on your tea perhaps. And at the same time, I want to extend a very warm thank you to a Woman with Wings, who's always been the wind beneath my wings. So Woman with Wings is a platform that I'm representing today, who largely they're committed to the purpose of uplifting women, but with a slightly different concept in mind. We realize that women are dealing with too much in these times, and they're the ones who've lost out a lot in terms of their passions and talents in the process of trying to balance out their home fronts. So why not give them an opportunity to explore more in life, learn and expand their wings, and perhaps make them financially more capable? So this is a community that stands for collaboration. We stand for uplifting each other. We're a cheerleader group, you can say, and our motto is that every woman counts. So that brings me to our first question, Dr. Neeta, and I'd like you to start with your introduction also, so that our viewers know you really well. I'd request you to talk about your journey and share a little about the Tryst of Destiny. It was interesting to read a little bit of your profile, and it just kind of got stuck in my mind. So I would so like to know that from you. Over to you, Dr. Neeta.
Thank you ever so much, Women with Wings, Shefali and Shikha. I think you all have been really kind to me. And I think from the day I spoke to Shefali, I said, why me? I said, I'm a very ordinary person. I am not popular, but I am a foot soldier. So, and what Shefali told me is that's what we want. So I am very humbled to be here today, and delighted to share a bit about myself. And I've told a lot of my friends and family. There are some things which have always been with me, I have never shared. And this is really the first time that I'm going to be doing that. And thanks to Shikha, who has given me that courage to say, please come out. We're all together, and be the cheerleader that, so others can also get inspired. So just a little bit about my background. Um, I was born as Neeta Pradhan, and as I would have it, and as everybody knows, I was brought up in a privileged environment in Nepal, and it so happened. But while growing up, I was always uh, looking out for something else. It was not that I was happy with what I had, but I was always concerned about people who didn't have much. I was looking out for those people less privileged than me. So it was an
That's
instinct.
rare, Dr. Neeta. When you're blessed and you are, born with a silver spoon, I think that's a rarity.
Thank
People rarely would go all out to think about others' upliftment. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, of course, my father had one of the first, started one of the first manpower companies, placement companies in Nepal, and my mother, owned a school. So, I mean, the manpower, typically we have security guards. So, we had those in the house and all around the house, and that was a business. So, one thing that's always stayed with me, and I think that's how our values were, we were brought up in that way. So, I think that is what has been with me is that, we were always made to fold our hands in front of the security guards. Because my father would say the bread and butter on the table is because they are working. So I think that is something that always stayed with me, and um, which really brought me to the fact that um, these are the people we need to look out for. These are the people we need to really take care of. And the same with my mother, because she had so many teachers. I would always be speaking to them, but there was something in my mind always which said, why is there poverty? Why is there so much suffering? I have it, but why doesn't somebody else have it too? So, my school days was it was very, very simple, enjoyable like everybody else. My childhood was very good. I think my transformation really came when I went into my master's. So I did my college and master's in Mumbai. So while in my master's, I had a subject called the social infrastructure, so which spoke a lot about education. But then it also spoke about the fact that there are those things which education does not give you. So why are
Yeah.
there dropouts? Why are there people unemployed in spite of having the best of education? I think that stayed with me, and that's somehow was bothering me to a very large extent. So when I finished my masters, I went to one of my professors and I said, there is a burning, I think there's a purpose in me that I need to fulfill, and I can't understand that. So I wanted to start with, doing a research or, starting a research in education. So one of my professors who became my guide and my mentor and a very good friend said, I think there are enough and more working on education. Why don't you look at the vocational training piece? And believe you me, I did not have an idea what vocational training was. I was just absolutely, lost. So she sent me to one of the industrial training institutes in Bombay. And
Okay.
when I went in there and spoke to the students there, I mean, I cried. That is what you call purpose. With whatever they were given, they had a purpose. They were very driven. They had a mission, but nobody was servicing them. So I think that
Yeah.
one visit transformed me completely.
I'm so tempted to add one quick personal experience also, because I've been to ITIs and I've interacted, and I think in our offline conversation I happened to share. My heart went out to, it was actually heart wrenching, but very overwhelming to see how they're committed and what kind of energies and spark they had in their life to be able to do good. That's rare to see in a B school.
Yes.
Most of the people I've unfortunately interacted, students in even IAMs, tend to build a very arrogant mindset and limited, thought process. They would not be thinking about how they can contribute to the society or what they can do to, make somebody's life better. But that's a mindset that you will find in such institutes with engineering background, students who walk into vocational institutes. And that's really encouraging to see that you're in that space, bringing impact to their lives in whichever way possible. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Good to
So
know.
when I was, researching on the ITIs, I think everybody thought I was a little crazy because ITIs was such a new subject at that time, and my family was very worried. They said, "What will you do after that?" So I kept telling them, I don't know if I'll do anything at all in life, but I have. This is like I picked up this that when you were talking, I think it is when when you were introducing the talk, it was very emotional because you spoke of something called curiosity. So I think that is the only thing that led me to the research because I
Yeah.
wanted to know more. I wanted to know how can we make their lives better. It's a deep disservice that we are doing to those students who are there. They come
Yeah.
with a mindset that it's a job oriented course, but the last thing they
Mm.
got was a job. So I researched that space, and one thing that's been with me while I was researching, I came across this lovely proverb. It's a Chinese proverb. It says, "Teach your children things other than what you have learned, and prepare them for times different from yours." So I think that's something that really stayed with me, and I think that is something that is like an evergreen statement that we can have.
Yeah.
So if you were to say, I mean, I'm just going on to the twist with this destiny because that's what I felt I had to do, and I think I took a path, a road less taken, because when I finished my research, I was very fortunate actually that I was taken into this Confederation of Indian Industry,
Wow.
where I think a lot of my professors were wondering what I was going to do. I've done a research, and now you're going to go and work in an industry association. But I think that was a calling because at that time industry was looking for an answer. The
Yeah.
manufacturing numbers had to go up. We wanted to build our production lines, but there was one gap, and they couldn't identify. So I think that's the time when we realized it was the skilled, labor shortage that we were facing. So I think it
Mhm.
was just divine timing. That's what I say. And CII was my destiny, because the amount I learned, the amount I could contribute to the sector being there was
Ah,
absolutely fabulous, and I think purposeful, if I say, because I
wow.
made, or we all made a difference to the larger, um, I think the national goals, of course, communities. So we made that difference to people who mattered. And now
Wow.
you see transformation, in the ITIs, in the education system, in the skill system. So I think if I look at it, I've had a very fulfilling journey. And well, I mean, this is destiny.
It's so interesting to hear your story, Dr. Anita. I see a lot of people, commenting. They're enjoying the conversation already.
Thank
Somebody's joined us from a foreign country, and sorry, I missed out the name of the state. I think they want Johannesburg. Thank you, Pat, for joining in. And if we can have Hindi subtitles, backend team, a small request from our audience today. Wonderful. It's interesting how the twist of destiny happened and things started to shape up. वो कहावत है ना एक, इतनी शिद्दत से तुम्हें पाने की कोशिश की है कि पूरी कायनात ने हमें तुमसे मिलाने की साजिश
you.
की है. So
So
it's
I have to tell you one thing on that, because I had a very difficult time trying to complete my research because, I
okay.
got married along the way. I had children. My guide was very kind. But then I'd tell her, I think I will haunt you from my grave if I don't finish this. I'm not never going to let go of it. So you better make me finish it. So I think that's what it was.
Oh, amazing. So I also happen to see another term that you've used. You call yourself a development enthusiast. So it kind of intrigued me, and I'd love you to share that insight with our audience today. What exactly does a development enthusiast mean?
So I think largely, I think we have a lot of us in the country now. We are, for one, of course, problem solvers, is how we
Uh-huh.
see it. So we have a problem and we want to get to the root of it for the cause of society. We want a society that, you know, coexists in
Yeah.
whichever form, I mean, it can't be egalitarian, we understand, but, as much as possible, we have a society which coexists happily with each other. And I think my real desire is to, you know, see the world transform through my actions and make a
Wow.
difference. So a lot of people would tell me, you're into skill development. What does it mean? And what is your dream? So I say every person on the road should have a job, should be, not having to beg or look for a job and be unhappy. So I think that's really my purpose. If they
Profound.
have a skill, they should just, be employed. They should also be happy with, I mean, be able to look after themselves, their family. It's a very, I think, if you look at it, a very small want. And for
Yeah,
a country,
our purposes coincide, Dr. Nita. We are also in WWW working towards a similar kind of upliftment and cause for women fraternity. So it's beautiful. Anjali says, okay, she's recoding itni shiddat se maine tumhe maanne ki koshish ki thi. Thank you, Anjali. So to my assessment, one more thing that clicked while you were talking was that learning is more centric towards our own knowledge, acquiring our knowledge or improving my skill set. But when it comes to development, that's when you are more holistic in your outlook. You're actually looking at others as well. So learning is when you're thinking about self, and development is more about when you take everyone else with you. And that, to my assessment, appears to be exactly what you're doing as a development enthusiast. Brilliant. Uh, that brings me to one more thought, Dr. Nita. Sadly enough, during this COVID alone, over the last year and a half, I think we've had 12.2 crore some people losing our jobs, which is really, really sad. We see people struggling, striving, and stifling with their own lives and livelihoods. It's impacted their mental, emotional health as well. So we realized that it was a need or a calling to build an entrepreneurial mindset, have people become more self reliant, perhaps. So, what are your suggestions or thoughts on how we can build that kind of entrepreneurial mindset and encourage it in our country?
right. So currently, I'm with the Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University. So I think that's one of the focus that we have. That we will be looking at. I wouldn't say teaching, because a lot of people say you can't teach entrepreneurship, but we will be inculcating that mindset, because according to the new education policy, you have a multiple entry and exit system now. So, after
Okay.
every year, for whatever reason, if you want to be in the workplace, you can actually leave your academic session after a year and
Yeah.
then join the workplace or whichever way. So, we will prepare the kids, with a very focused curriculum on how do you think beyond just a job. I mean, I think we will give them all the, many facets of how, an entrepreneurship works. That's for every course that we have. And we
Wonderful.
have a very, very unique course, by the name of Face the World. So I think
Mhm.
that's really what we need. So where we are going to teach them, of course, we know it as employability skills, but what else do we need in that? You need a little bit of a business mindset. Now you have a
Right. Right.
digital mindset. We still, I think our generation still kind of scrambles and fumbles with it. So I think
Right.
all those things, yes, those things are
I
going to
think
be put.
we as parents, unfortunately, I'm sure Dr. Nita, you'll agree that we tend to pass on our fixed mindsets to our children, and to top it all, we also have the education system, which kind of is limiting in a lot of ways and is not evolving at the pace of change in today's time and age. So with all those limitations, our understanding of perhaps what entrepreneurial mindset is may also be very, very limited. So can you take a quick brief second and some time here to kind of elaborate that for the benefit of our audience here?
Yes. So when we say entrepreneurial mindset, it is about, it's not about teaching, it's more about doing. So if I were to take an example and give somebody a life project and tell them, okay, if you do it on your own,
Yeah.
okay, just an example, I have a retail course. So then I say, okay, now I'm giving you a live project, for 15 days. I'm making you the owner. What are you going to do in that? So I think it's again learning by doing. So I think
Yeah.
that's really what we are trying to inculcate in our children. Like you said, it's not. I mean, skills cannot be rote learning at any stage. It has to be
Yeah.
hands-on, and it has to ignite the interest of that person. So and
True.
very very I think it's a pleasant surprise for all of us. We have somebody like Dr. Niharika Bora, who's guiding us as the vice chancellor. She's a very practical person. She listens to all of us, who have been in the system, who have not been in the system, and then takes a decision. So when we started off conversations with her, she's from IIM Ahmedabad. So, we have in fact always said, why can't the best minds come into skills? So I think she's an example I always give. And she's been, teaching, or rather, she's been mentoring students. So when we say entrepreneurial mindset, what we mean is really you do it and you figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Because till you don't
Well
do
said.
it, you're always being spoon fed. And I think in our society, if you go to a college, you're expected to be given your notes, you're expected to be taking your exams, and everything is a set pattern. So
Yeah.
at the university, we're not saying we're going to have a set pattern. Tomorrow the child might come in and it might just be a fun day. It might be a live project day. So I
So
mean,
interesting.
so we
That's so
don't
interesting.
want, yeah, we don't want education or skill development to be a burden on the child. They
Yeah.
should be very, I mean, I've always said that skill development has to be fun, because a person who has a skill, a talent, I think their biggest recognition is the acknowledgement of their talent.
Yeah.
No amount of remuneration really works for them. So when you say entrepreneurial mindset, I think it's again acknowledging what that hidden talent within that person is. There could be something like, I mean, they have the idea, but they don't know how to execute it. They don't know how to express it. So I think we are going to nudge them to do that. And
Wonderful. So skills, as per you, is also giving an expression to people's talent. It's about
absolutely,
doing it and exploring it for yourselves. That's beautiful. And with an experiential learning with an element of fun, nothing can get better than that, Dr.
absolutely,
Neeta. So that's the best way to take entrepreneurial mindset forward. I think we need to start cultivating that right
yes,
from the early childhood. I do see some initiatives happening for younger students from class 6 to class 12. There are various campaigns that people have started doing to, kind of sow those seeds of entrepreneurial mindset, to think like a business leader, to actually think like somebody who's more concerned about others. So inculcating the seeds of civic sense, so to say, and that's so essential, for skill development uh, across the country, not limiting to people who are only acquiring knowledge, because the true essence of education should be it makes us more tolerant and more, it kind of broadens our horizon. I think you wanted to add something.
yes. I just had one example when we were talking about this say entrepreneurial mindset. On one of our visits to Germany, we had gone to a nursery school where
Okay.
they had a parent teacher meet day, and there were a lot of parents coming. And like we have for our in our own preschools, we have role play centers, corners. And there was some things written in German, and we couldn't understand, but all the parents were looking at it and acknowledging that. So I asked one of our guides, I said, what is written there? So, above every role play corner, it said this could be your career. So,
Wow.
like you were talking about sowing seeds, at such an early age,
Yes.
they I think, I'd say, really motivate you to say no career, no job, or no sector um, is lowly.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, every job that you do has respect. So I think that's
Totally.
really what we are also trying to inculcate, that why can't the skilled be respected in our country? Like in the pandemic, we saw they were the ones who were driving the economy.
Totally.
If,
Can't agree more. I think every
yes,
time we were doing more of home household chores, we realized the importance of every single house help we had, including the person who would come to collect garbage every morning. So I kept telling my husband, I said, why don't we acknowledge these things on a day-to-day basis? Why did it have to take us a pandemic to realize the worth of every single support system we have in the nation today, including,
absolutely.
people who are cleaning the roads, so much pain and toil and hard work that goes into it. And it is definitely a skill, and they all deserve equal respect. Like you rightly said, no job is lowly and no skill is lowly at all. So we must take pride, and we must also, like you mentioned earlier, education has to actually be applied in the real sense, to
Hmm.
kind of spread across and benefit every single individual. Lovely. It brings me to another thought, and I'd like you to add your insights. We see there is a dire need of upskilling for sure. Future looks quite complex and unpredictable in so many ways. So, what are some skills that you would emphasize on for especially women development? And is there a specific wing in your college, your university, which addresses women development per se? Dimple asked that question, so we'd like to understand.
Yes, in fact, since we are an entrepreneurship university also, and I think our vice chancellor, because she's mentored so many, she's understood, how entrepreneurship really works. So I think what really she focused, and what we want to take forward as well, is that we want to start a cell for 100, to start with 100 women, micro women entrepreneurs. So that's what we are looking at. For our students, we do have, within the Face the World, we will have entrepreneur mindsets set in. We will have projects for them, but this micro women entrepreneurial cell that is going to be coming up, and we will
Mhm.
have partners for them. They will look at really bridging that gap that women feel at that level. So we did have a webinar recently, a webinar with one of the um, ministers, in the Delhi government, and I think he said a very beautiful thing that stayed with me was, you know, the big will get bigger, but it is for the small that you really need to cater to. You need to empower them, and they are the ones who really need that support from you. So I think that's what we've got in mind to start with, in terms of micro women entrepreneurs, and whether we call them from the being in Delhi, they will be urban, but
Yeah.
we will keep them in mind, and not to be cliched and say, okay, it's just women entrepreneurs, not a bad thing, but I think the
Yeah.
people I mean the lot which really needs it, because at the webinar we were introduced to one of the ladies who was doing very well in a she was making masalas,
Mm.
but because of the pandemic, she completely had to close down her business. So
Okay.
that's the other thing that now you're talking about upskilling. So we did want. I mean, we will be getting her, aligned to Womania. That is the women, platform and the network on the MSME platform of GEM. That's the government marketplace,
Okay.
which has a perfect interface. You have no middle people. It's completely digital and seamless. So I think that is the upskilling that we really need to do with women right now who are existing. Again, the other thing that we've always understood is that financial literacy or financial independence.
Yeah.
Any of us, we are very casual. We um, earn whatever we earn, and then I think the males in the family are there to decide, where you're supposed to invest, or whether you're not supposed to invest. or you're supposed to splurge everything that you have. But at the end of the day, you are not the decision maker. So I think that's
Yeah,
another.
invariably that happens. We love shopping, and I think even COVID didn't stop us from doing that. So there was once this discussion, and I had to reflect on how much I've earned and how much I've saved, and I was quite stumped that there's so much that we end up wasting on things that we really don't need. Those are wants and results of this consumerist world where we just get driven and lured into buying various things that you may also not end up using. That's really sad. That and apparently during this time, I think we realized our life goes on. It doesn't matter if you're not going to a mall, if you've not seen a movie in the picture hall, and also if you've not bought 10 suits in the year. It doesn't really matter. So I think at the end of the day, I totally get what you're saying, and it's so important that women start upgrading themselves on various things, including technology, including financial literacy, like you rightly pointed out. These are so essential for not just this time, to kind of sail through it, but actually something that will help them sustain themselves with utmost dignity and grace in the coming years. So beautifully said. There is one more aspect of development, with respect to learning, really. When it comes to learning, do you think it results in employability always, or there is a catch-22 there? What's your take on that?
So, I mean, I think that's a catch-22 situation. I mean, question for me, being in a university of skill and entrepreneurship, that's really our goal. Our learning has to translate into employability. So, if I was to talk about a little about how the university has designed all the courses, our design principles, circle around the fact that every course that we have has a very, very strong industry partnership. So what we've said is, till we don't have an industry partner, we will not start the course. So we started the other way around. So usually it's like people start courses and then they start looking for industry partners. So what we did is we spoke to the industry first. So if the sector was willing, it also gave us an investment that there is a demand in the sector. Because there were a lot of sectors who said, no, I don't think this year you should start a course. I mean, they were very, I think, supportive of that, to say, why do you want to start a course? Because we have suffered losses. There's not going to be enough jobs. So I think our aim really is to make sure that everybody who comes into this our campuses, we will be having around 13 campuses across Delhi. It's a very, very unique model. I haven't seen it anywhere else still. It might be internationally there, but in India, we have a system of disaggregated campuses, and even the polytechnics. There are 10 polytechnics which have come under our wings. So we have a seamless transition from the school system to the diploma and then to the degree. So I think that's going to be very, very interesting for industry as well.
And it's very encouraging to hear this, actually. I'm getting all the sparks of hope now in my head, that tomorrow is definitely going to get way brighter and far more practical and realistic, because this is precisely what we need. We need to create more bridges between the education system and the corporates, institutes, and job market, so to say, and also see the best possible collaborations, with industry partners. I love the fact that you had a reverse approach, and I'm sure it's going to work wonders, not just for the curriculum, but for students' future, ultimately.
So I think there's a saying that, we keep telling industry, we said, in fact, that's what I keep telling them. I said, we are dreamers and tell us so, but we know we want to achieve our dreams. Maybe not today, tomorrow, but we will. And in a way, industry is pleasantly surprised when we call them for a, curriculum advisory group, because they're so used to being called in the third year. They're a placement partner at, most of the time. But, or they may be called for an update of a curriculum. But for us, we have started every curriculum from scratch, absolutely. So we're doing unique courses like, BA in aesthetics and beauty therapy. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist yet. And we have, a very unique course in facilities and hygiene management. So, which is,
Nice.
we want to peg it under sustainability. It's just not going to be mopping and swapping. So, I think those are the real, areas we want to develop our children, and that these are the areas where we need respect for these kids. Why do we are always debating about why is India not being able to keep themselves clean, or India is not clean. We can
Yeah.
say that, but nobody respects those people who clean them. Nobody wants to take up their
That's what
job.
we're missing out on. That's where
Yes.
we are missing out on the whole picture. And Pan is adding his comments. It's amazing. It's sounding like an amazing curriculum, and people would want to go for these kind of upskilling for their teams and employees in maybe organizations for that matter, because it makes absolute great sense. If we have a little more upskilling on these kind of vocational areas where people have not yet ventured, they've not yet thought about it, but they're essential part of our life, and they're actually going to be improving the overall experience of maybe the company or the society at large. So great going. I think it's wonderful talking throughout, and I hope all our audiences are enjoying. Please raise your hands or say yes in the chat box, so both of us know we're not boring you to death.
I know.
And
We're so engrossed, and I get goosebumps when I talk about our courses, because we've taken so much of effort in it, and it's been a wonderful journey. It's just been around 3 months, but industry has come in with such large hearts. I mean, it is actually, sometimes emotional when we see that. They said we were waiting for this moment. Why didn't you call?
wow,
But nobody calls us at this stage. We are called when
great.
we have to pick up students. We don't even know what we are picking up. So I think it's been absolutely, I call it my second innings. After a
Beautiful.
long stint wherever I was, and it's again an opportunity to really course correct the system as well.
Hmm.
So thank you, Pat. Oh, you've been lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I,
we hear a lot of our audience responding now. They're all enjoying and
thank you.
reciprocating. So we're safe, Dr. Neeta. We're not boring anyone so far.
No.
I'd like to also know from you, what are some challenges that perhaps this space is currently experiencing, or maybe you could talk about some of your observations in terms of where we need to work more strongly, or it needs improvement, so to say. Especially from a society angle, what is it that we can do to better this situation?
Yes. I think, for me, it's like a repetition every time I keep saying it. It's again acceptance by society still. We
Okay.
still, there are companies now who have uplifted the, rank of a skilled person. So,
Yeah.
we did very small things, like even in the industry, instead of calling them a shop floor person, we said a shop floor technician.
Yeah.
Just change the nomenclature. We instead of saying an electrician, we say electric technician.
Wow.
Or we say maintenance technician. So I think that gives them a little bit of confidence. Self confidence. They are viewed differently. Then I think all of us. I think the problem really lies in society, actually, more than anything else. We don't accept still, and let me be very frank. Even in very educated societies, if a child wants to learn culinary, I
Hmm.
don't think it's a very, very, you know,
Respected.
accepted, or, they're not going to say, oh, please go ahead. They would not like them to become an engineer or a doctor, but would
Yeah.
surely want them to get into any kind of a skilled, you know, what do you say, skilled operation job. So I think that's really where the mindset. I think that's the really the toughest thing to change, because
Totally understand that, because I worked in a factory, Dr. Neeta, and I've seen the people working on welding and other machines, and the hands-on guys. They are so passionately doing their jobs, and they're like, "Man, there's this new person who's coming as a manager. So how do you expect us to stay motivated when I know that he has barely any skills and has just about studied in some good school and come in here as my senior when I've operated in this factory on these various processes for the say last 5 years. It's so hard, for them to accept that aspect. But a lot goes back to what you just mentioned. It's our own stereotypical treatment of people who are into vocational spaces. They come with a lot of knowledge and hands-on. However, we are not giving them that kind of space and acceptance today. So it's time we revamp that aspect about the society and start acknowledging, appreciating, and respecting every single individual for the skills that they possess and the value that they're bringing on the table. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
I think a very interesting thing about the university also, we have not kept an age bracket.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
It's like you could be 90 years old and you want to come and study, please do.
Wow. Wow.
Because
that's encouraging. So tomorrow, if I want to learn something, I can come.
Absolutely. So we say skills has no age. I mean, how can talent die? It's always within you. There is something, and if you don't use that, in my research, I always said that the trained unemployed are far more, I think, dangerous, if you say so. Because if talent is not used well, it can completely even be harmful. You can completely be, one of those who don't contribute to society well. So I think it is very, very important for us to hone those people who have the talent, give them a voice, give them an expression, like you were saying. Recognize them. It doesn't take much at all. It really doesn't take much.
Truly important and extremely well said. It's about acceptance and respect both. So I'd like to ask you very quickly, what's your mantra for, say, women leadership today? Because we see a lot of attention drawn towards women taking up leadership roles, while they've also lost out on their jobs during this time. But they've kind of risen up to various positions across the world today. And that's very invigorating. But we'd like to send out a message to every woman who's tuned in today and to all the families who'd be observing and watching you. What can be done to encourage and build more women leadership?
So women, if you look at women leadership, I just give you an example. While I was with CII, we had one of our first, and she hated to hear that. We called her the first lady president. So she would say, why am I different? Why do you need to pinpoint and say I'm a woman leader? Let's okay, we might not be equal, but it's equity that we look at. So let's not also sometimes bracket ourselves to say, okay, I'm a woman, so I need that leadership position. Let us be far. We will compete. We will show what we have. And our roles will change, our minds will change as we work towards it. But sometimes, and of course, a lot of people would tease me and say, because you have the privilege. I said, no, I've never said that I'm a woman, so I should be there, or a man has not let me be there. If I had shown talent, if I had shown my guts to do the work that I've been given, I think there will be somebody who will be recognizing it. And I don't deny there are places where there is a bias, and those need to be corrected. But I think as women also, why do we need to say that we want to be privileged? Why should we say that? I don't know if you agree with that, but I'd say
we do tend to buy a little excuse here and there. Why are you expecting me to do it? I'm not the one who will be investing in bonds, perhaps. Or there's so many places where we tend to buy an excuse because you're a woman. So we don't realize, but we do it in a very uncanny way.
So I think women leadership, I'd say more for the family than the corporate world, actually. In the family, you see, especially if I may say so, we live most of us live in maybe North India, and we see it. I think the women leadership should be there in the families. The corporate world, I think, is changing, and I don't completely disagree that there are biases. There are a lot of people who do face difficulties, but if we change the family values, if we change again back to society, we will, I think, not have this problem going forward. I think again we need to change the stereotypical and the mindsets that we have with us.
Yeah.
Because
We have to
in my
unchain ourselves from our own limited shackles, I guess, our own limited beliefs in the head. So a lot
so
has to do with family values, like you said,
absolutely.
and
So
women
because
back home.
in my family, I've had the strongest women. From
Wow.
my grandmother to my mother, my aunts, my sisters, my sister-in-laws, my mother-in-law, and I see how they cope.
Yeah.
And they make their place. And it's not that they're aggressive, it's not that they're boisterous, but I think they're just confident. Okay, been given that space as well. But again, we need to change our family values.
Yeah.
So
This
I
is
mean that's
where, learning and leadership, I think it goes hand in glove. It's indispensable, and we need to realize that we need to be lifelong learners too.
yes,
So, no matter what age group, no matter where you are, if you are willing to go all out, and in your mind you fight that battle, like you rightly said, and go back to basics in terms of values we're inculcating in houses, we're sure to take the world by storm as women leaders. Wonderful. That brings me to a rapid fire round, Dr. Neeta.
no,
The favorite time, I
I'm
jump
waiting for
right
that.
in.
I'm waiting for that. So are you going to give me an answer after that?
I don't know. We'll ask you some crazy questions for sure. So I'm going to starting off
Okay.
with, okay, you have a superpower to select. Which superpower would you like to go for? So out of all the fantasy characters you would have seen since
Oh,
childhood,
uh-huh.
which
So
superpower, super person, avatar you'd like to be?
I used to always say I want to be Iron Man because he's got the wealth. The rest of
Oh
them
yeah.
are all very poor.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah, I'm being very honest. My children would ask me, why Iron Man? So I said, because the rest are all very sad and, they're always living in some dungeons or some holes. I said, Iron Man has a lovely house, has technology by his side, and he's very smart. So I said, I want to be Iron Man.
Super, super. So, what's your favorite dialogue? Is there a favorite dialogue? Some kind of a quote or a saying or some kind of a punchline that's your favorite?
Not punchline, but I think quote is, I'd say, do unto others as you have them do unto you. That's it. I go by that. I mean, I
Nice.
think the rest is all divine timing and divine blessings. But if of course, a lot of people tell me because you do good, don't expect good to come back to you. But I have this saying that if you have your peace of mind, if your heart is clean, you have not wronged anybody, purposefully,
Yeah.
knowingly. I think you can live well.
True.
You don't need
In fact,
anything.
my one of my thoughts that's in sync with you is around that. It talks about people are not right or wrong. Oftentimes I've seen that in corporates where people tend to jump to conclusion, judge the other person. But I think this belief has always helped me. They're neither right nor wrong. They just, either they have small thought process or a large thought process. So it's the outlook that makes a world of a difference, and that's all
Absolutely.
that matters. Okay, so quickly, any embarrassing moment, something you've done crazy during this 1.5 to 2 years of lockdown that you could share with us?
Oh, wow. Well, I think one thing I think for everybody to know, and my friends and family know it, that I'm a terrible cook. I just can't be in the kitchen. So every time I'm in the kitchen, there is a disaster. So I think during the pandemic, I tried it a couple of times, and they said, then just give up. I think we'll just have an instant noodle and sleep. But we don't want you getting into the kitchen. So
So
I'm a disaster in the kitchen. So I mean, if you say women have to be in the kitchen, I think I break that stereotype first. And when I was getting married, my mother would say, "I think they're just throwing out her mouth and do come back,"
I
because I
think
just learn.
Maggie knew this problem right from the beginning, and that's
Yes,
why they brought Maggie as a respite to all women like us.
absolutely. So I
While I
mean,
have to cook, I don't think I love to be in the kitchen all the time. So yeah, I know
no,
that feeling.
no, I pity my, I think, in-laws. I mean, they'd love to have some good food made by their daughter-in-law, but well, it hasn't happened so far. So I'm one of those who's I say I don't because my dad used to always tell us this, and I understood it, very late in life, uh, because mom was working always, so
Okay.
she loved to cook. So she'd get into the kitchen and he'd tell her, we have cooks in the house, we have help in the house. Why do you need to be in the kitchen? Why don't you
Yeah.
spend time with the kids and us?
Yeah.
So, that was a thought which at that time didn't really, we didn't understand the gravity of it.
But it's heartening to hear that, Dr. Neeta.
Yes.
I think that's really rare in a lot of families, even in the most educated, most modern families. You find that expectation always. Uh, we'd like to also know your hidden talent, something which is a lesser known fact. Even maybe your colleagues don't know it yet, that you can share with our viewers. What's that one hidden talent or lesser known fact about you?
Okay, I'm an open book. I really don't know if I have any hidden talent. It's just that my hidden talent, I'd say is I love making people happy. I don't know if that's also counted as a talent, but I love to be around people, and that's
Sure.
when I had taken up a job as a journalist very long time back in my life once, and
Wow.
what I realized at that time was I kept saying, okay, I know how to write. That's the only thing that I knew, when I got straight out of college. And
Okay.
the next thing that I realized was that I like this, I enjoy this because I love being with people, and I
Wow.
love seeing people happy. So I
Yeah,
think
Aruna,
this is the
Aruna from
talent.
the audience has just shared a fact about you, and that's beautiful. I'll read. Dr. Neeta Pradhan has been a super considerate child, elder sister to her siblings and to everyone else. And look at her today; she hasn't changed a bit. That's such a wonderful thing to share. Thank you so very much. And I think in today's session, it's so evident the way you love interaction, and you're clearly a people's person, Dr. Neeta. I'd like the audience to ask one or two questions. We have time enough to accommodate them, and we can keep it very, very quick and brief in terms of responding. So I'll request the audience to shoot one or two questions before we wrap up for today. We really want your queries to be addressed. If at all, feel free, and we'll be happy to take them up.
Maybe I'll ask you, what is your hidden talent? I just got to know of it a little while ago.
My hidden talent, actually, I don't know if people know that, but I love dancing. And there was
Oh,
a point
lovely.
when I wanted to be a choreographer when I was really a teenager, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to be somebody on the stage all the time. I think life has had its own destiny of bringing me to
I know.
into training and then doing all of this public speaking, perhaps. So part of that has gotten fulfilled.
So that reminds me, I really wanted to always be a uh, media journalist. So,
Okay.
my brother-in-law used to work with the media a lot. He used to say, no, 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 never, 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 never from a family, because you'd be shooting the whole night. Sometimes there's some story that you need to catch in the middle of the night. So I really wanted to do that, but I think that's again another reflection of being with people. I really wanted. I have this keen, what do you call it, curiosity. You call it an eagerness to bring the truth out,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a situation. So I think that's really what is in me, that also right now, also when we're always solving a problem, even in the skill development world, every day we see, like we are right now at the university, our admissions are going on, the kind of
Yeah.
questions that are coming from young minds. Sometimes we don't have the answers, but they're very sharp.
Well,
So
it's good to hear you have questions coming in, and we do have one more question from the audience also. Shikha asked that there are women who aspire to be in leadership roles and they find it challenging. So, what is your one advice to all such women? Thank you, Shikha, for your question.
thank you, Shika. I think the first thing is that, I think, unless you're in a very difficult situation, I know there are biases, there are people who have all kinds of, mindsets and notions. I think we just have to be confident enough to say, we know the job and we want to take it forward as a person. I
Yeah.
think if we keep that in the back of our mind, we will succeed. It's not to say that I'm a woman, so I somehow, maybe it's my upbringing. I have never had that question in my mind. I've had people trouble me at the workplace. I have had people who have been difficult with me, but I've never thought because I'm a woman.
Hmm. So
So
Pat is asking, what are you currently reading, and share any key message from it, if at all. Are you
so
currently reading any book from where you can share
very
something?
interesting. I'm reading a book called Women Who Walk with the Wolves.
Uh-huh.
So they actually it's about. I've just started it. That surprising you asked me that, and I just picked it up the other day. So
Wow.
it's about, again, women in different situations. From
Uh-huh.
the early days, how they dealt with situations. And one thing again, um, I've understood in that
Thank
is,
you. I think Aruna Pradhan is stating something about the conversation coming out beautifully and your best coming on the table. So it's more
thank
to
you.
do with Dr. Neeta's best side. Somebody from your family, I'm assuming. So thank you
That,
so much
that,
for your generous comments. Thank you.
that is this, strong women with wings. I have enough in the family. These are the women with wings. They are the ones who give us, the confidence and the encouragement to fly.
True.
I must tell you a story. Thank you, Pat. I must tell you a story that I come from a family of business people. Both my father and
Uh-huh.
mother had businesses. I mean, they're no more, but they never, ever told us that you have to join the business. They said, follow
Wow.
your dream. So my dad, after I was in a boarding school, he would, sit me down and make me watch movies like Woman of Substance. So he said,
Hmm.
that's what we want you to be. You follow your
Yeah.
dream. And there were times I'd fight with him, because I was in the corporate world. I was at times, exhausted with it. So I said, Papa,
Yeah.
why didn't you make me do business with you? I tell mommy, why didn't you? Maybe it would have been easier. But I think both of them were, so balanced. I mean, they did not have any kind of. I mean, I'd say it would be selfish, if they'd say that, okay, I wanted to pursue something else, but you have to get into the business.
I'm
So
so
I think
glad
that.
that you said that. In fact, I've also had a similar experience with my upbringing, and we're four siblings, Dr. Neeta, and I'm so happy the fact that we were raised as individuals, not as girl or a boy. We're three sisters and a brother. So that is what has always kept our outlook very neutral and more global, so to
Mhm.
say. Thanks to the education, thanks to all the exposure we got when we were growing up, and in today's time and age, I think I'd like to quickly conclude before, in the favor of time, that we're all looking at learning from a certain perspective till date. It's important that we start understanding that the purpose of learning is actually to explore your own talent, to get that expression of who you really are, what drives you, right? If it's not unlocking that potential that's hidden inside you, it's not a purposeful learning for you. So don't follow the mob and herd mentality. Try to find your calling like Dr. Neeta did. And even I follow the same principle in life. And that's why I call myself a passionpreneur. I think it's important that we start inculcating this kind of a practice where we're driven by purposes. And it's something where, social and emotional skills come into play. So social emotional learning is the need of the hour. We know the pandemic has caused so much stress, and our resilience is put to test. Our mental emotional well-being and stability is put to test. The mental depression rates have only mounted up, and our younger age group children, they're suffering in a lot of ways. The future of the economy is also being put to test. This is the phase where the kind of learning we're doing has a huge role to play. So my assertion again and submission to all our wonderful viewers who've taken all the time right now, and to our Dr. Neeta Pradhan who's taken on this time to talk to us on this important topic, is to build those kind of skills that are going to either employ you or give you those entrepreneurship skills that will allow you to run your own business. Anything less than that is not going to be self-sustaining, and it will not make you self-reliant. So try and keep your energies focused and oriented towards these aspects. Dr. Neeta, any closing words?
So I think, thank you very much, firstly. And like I said, even if we are dreamers, we'd like every person on the road to be gainfully employed, be happy with their families. And I always say that India does not need poverty. We can solve
Mm.
for that. and skill
Yeah.
development could be the silver bullet.
How would you like to contribute towards Women with Wings? Our purposes really are in sync. How would you like to support us? Is there anything you'd like to share as a message with us?
Yes. So I think it's a very noble cause for one. I mean, when I was talking to Shifali, um, I mean, many days back also, I said, and she told me as well that we want women to support each other. We might be privileged, but we'd like those people who need and that support to be with us. And I would really like to volunteer and be with you wherever I can. Again, I say I have a small network of people who believe in me. So I think we can always reach out and work together and get more women, like-minded people to support each other. And we don't need to be influencers, we don't need to be popular, but if we have some kind of circle which actually fends for each other, I think we are good to go.
Yeah,
We've
circle of
done
cheerleaders. And we
yes,
welcome you into our circle of cheerleaders, a Woman with Wings. Thank you so very much to every single individual for being in this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your questions, your participation. Your responses have been really encouraging to us. And in the end, I'd like to say a Hindi ka quote, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तदबीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So on that note, thank you so very much and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.